Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe. Hey guys, Pure Athlete here, Jeff with Britt and Brad. So excited. We are doing our second live event at North Point Church on May 20th from 6:30 to 8:15. Britt, who's coming?
Man, we are so excited. We've got, for those of you who are missing NFL football or you just enjoyed the draft, we've got just a great night for you because our special guest on May 20th is none other than new Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, we're going to get to hear about him growing up in a small town, going to a small school, and kind of being an underdog and telling his youth sports experience all the way through college, and then talk a little about Falcons as well.
Yeah, you're going to want to get your tickets fast because they're selling out fast. And the way to get those tickets is to go to pureathleteinc.com. It's pureathleteinc.com.
And we do not want you to miss it. This is only our second live event we've done, and we're going to have a great one for you. So get on there, get your tickets, and we'll see you out there on May 20th. Before we get to the podcast, if you have middle school or high school kids that play sports and you don't want to fundraise like me, we got you covered. My buddy Chris Carneal owns Booster. Chris?
We help schools and sports teams raise funds in a super fun and engaging way. In fact, the last 22 years, we've raised $750 million, and we can't wait to help you. Choose booster.com.
Welcome to Pure Athlete. Jeff Francoeur here, along with Britt and Brad. And guys, today we have a special Happy Mother's Day episode for all the great moms out there. And we're lucky enough today to be joined by our three wives who are moms to 14 kids total.
Wow.
So, you know, they're having to clean up our mess all the time with those 14 kids. But we wanted to kind of bring a different perspective on a lot of the moms out there that are taking the kids all over the place and doing things. So with that being said, we have Brad's wife, Kathie Williams. Thank you for joining us. Britt's wife, Kaylee. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my wife, Katie. Thank you.
Of course.
So before we get going, we're going to let them talk. Yeah, she had to come. But thank you all for joining us. This is great. Thank you all for letting us do what we do and being a part of it and supporting it big time. But kind of what we want to talk about today is just from a little different perspective than what we give or what maybe some of the athletes and coaches have given. So before you get going though, I want you to start for a minute and just kind of tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name's Katie. I'm married to Jeff. Did you include yourself as a kid or do we just?
We like the way we started off already.
We have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So our house is very calm. It's very,
very quiet.
But we have known each other pretty much our whole lives, and parenting has been an adventure, but we are learning every day. So what else do you want me to tell?
That's great. We can get in more as we go.
Okay.
You are a former teacher.
I was a former teacher.
Yeah.
What grade did you teach?
I actually taught high school English.
Oh, did you? Okay, cool.
Yeah, nobody included me in on like the whole essay grading. Was going to be way more hours than like a math teacher, but
Yeah.
I loved it. I think teaching is the most important profession.
Yep, for sure.
Agreed. Kay?
Hi, I'm Kay, and I go with him. And I have 4 children and 2 recent son-in-laws, all ranging from 28 to 22-year-old. I have identical twin boys. And grew up in the area. We met actually at church 35 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time. We're old. Jeff's going to get there eventually, yes.
You guys were 10 when y'all met.
Yeah.
And have learned a lot about parenting and
The hard way.
yes, but we've been there together, so that's been good.
Well, we knew you had 2 weddings because Britt talked about it all the time about like, God, man, this is costing this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you're a teacher as well.
I'm a teacher as well.
Yep.
English teacher. Middle school, taught in Gwinnett County, then took off 15 years with my kids and then went back to the private school that they attend in Atlanta when they started back, and just moved into administration a couple years ago.
Did you really? That's great.
Yeah.
Kay was my younger son's kindergarten teacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
And he graduates from high school.
He does, hopefully. We'll see how the AP
There's still
exams
2
go.
more weeks.
Kathy?
All right, so Brad and I have 6 children. We've been married 33 years.
Something like that.
Yeah. And,
Ish.
so the age range, oldest is 27 down to 12. And 2 of ours are adopted. And I think our sports journey kind of has woven into that, our story as well, just in connecting with our kids and finding something that they're good at. They were adopted in older ages, 8 and 5. So when you're missing those early years, you try to play catch up on connecting with them, helping them find their place. And I think athletics has been an important part of that for them in particular.
So let's kind of get started. I want to know, we've had women on here that are super passionate about sports, that played sports, and they've kind of given their perspective as moms today. I think in all 3 of your cases, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your husbands are probably a little more passionate about sports, but you guys also love sports as well. And sports has been a big part of all of our households. So I would just like for you guys to talk a little bit about, the role y'all play in the whole sports world with your kids.
Well, as you're talking, I'm actually thinking yes, he is the big sports person, and it's actually come out in a negative manner if I play tennis, because he thinks he needs to show up and coach.
Yeah.
So I've actually gotten both sides of the coin with this coaching. No, but for me, I think that just as a mom in general, your main want for your child is to know how to come alongside them and help them do well in whatever it is they do. And I think for the most part, men or the athletes tend to be the more competitive ones. And so for me, I've tried on purpose to kind of be the yin to the yang, kind of yes, of course I know how they did at every game, but I'm kind of trying to talk about so-and-so, what did y'all do during the games? During the breaks today, what y'all talk about? Because I want to balance out the competitive feel, the need to do, perform well. I'm a performance person. I get real caught up in that in my own walk in life. So I see the need for my children, to feel that balance of hey, I'm proud of you. We love you, but we love you no matter what you do, So I try to be, not that you aren't like that, but I try to just, be a little bit opposite of the intensity.
Yeah. Kay?
I guess what I've learned and has become my heart as a mother and an educator is that I truly believe that each child is created in God's image, but with a gift and a strength and something that they're good at. And I feel like first and foremost as a mom, that to help my kids figure that out, not do it for them, even if they go in the wrong direction, say, well, that didn't work well, let's try something else. And, we've, had a path with that. It's been hard at times, but, and I feel the same way about my students, just, learning, you have a strength area, you have a calling, and, I want to come alongside you to help you figure that out, so.
For us, so I grew up with a sister and a dad who he's a big Braves fan, but otherwise not a lot of athletics. So when we got married, I didn't mention before, I'm a theater director. So the arts are that's my mom territory. He would say, if you'll handle all of the girls' theater things, I'll do the sports. And so
I try to give singing lessons, but that didn't work out too well. So every once I ask them if they want any help, but no, not usually.
So I think for me, I try to attend every game. And it was more of a community thing. All right, my child knows I'm showing up for him. And I enjoyed the mom years of being on the sidelines and cheering them on and the community that comes from that. the dad element, certainly they're there for the scoreboard. You know, they want to win, but there's also that community aspect. But I think the primary and secondary is reversed. You know, for him with theater, it may be just, hey, I'm going to go see that show, and you know, for my kids, my students, you know, when we're competing, it is a sport to them. So, but there's also that community in it. I've never been one to, you know, we don't do the pouting on the way home from, hey, the game didn't go well, or even the audition didn't go well. So I think we've kind of been a balance for each other on keeping the other one in check. When
You talking about my pouting? Or you talking about the kids pouting?
the kids. No,
game
he doesn't
didn't go well.
I've seen
No,
this
but-
guy.
Brad can pout. Out of the three of us, he pouts the most. There's no doubt.
But like, you know, our boys are sensitive and they internalize, and they lost the game because I didn't, or whatever. And sometimes a coach would be kind of hard. You see the talk, the powwow after the game, and you know that there's disappointment and stress. So I think because I honestly I don't care who wins the game. You know, of course, I mean, like we have a son going, you know, advancing in baseball. So of course we want them to win, but should it not go in our direction, I'm okay with it. Whereas a lot of the dad, well, I mean, and a lot of the moms too, they're broken over it, you know, type of thing. So, so I think in the same way, as far as the time element that sports takes and that arts, the theater world takes as well, I think we're a good check and balance for each other, to kind of not let it consume the rest of our family. So.
I got a good one real quick though, just to add to that. You said so say a coach unloads on your son or daughter and you get in the car. How does that conversation go?
She said, you want to answer it? Let me answer it for you.
You can answer and see if I would answer the same, but.
Mom's not happy.
Okay, yeah.
She'll tell me to go, you better go talk to him. Like there was a time that happened where.
To the coach?
Yeah, Mama Bear.
Yeah.
Got a lot of mama.
So I had to, she said, you better go over there and have a conversation with that coach, Brad, or I'm gonna.
What about you? I'm curious. I love to know how.
I got a lot of mama bear in me.
Yeah.
I do. And, but being on the other end of it, a lot of times I'm like, Bud, you got to learn how to take the good and the bad, you know, and I'm not, even with teachers, you know, and, you know, you're going to have another 2 or 3 coaches like that. You're going to have another, and, you know, and you're going to have a lot of great coaches, but I've got to, you know, I've got a lot of mama bear in me with that. And he was good for me in that, taught me through. And, you know, even within our kids, 3 of my 4 kids are big competitors. They've always, I mean, my oldest was big musical theater and on the stage a lot, you know, kind of life of the party. And then the twins were, you know, top-ranked tennis players coming through. And my middle daughter, thinking about what you were saying with kind of being the balance to that, I think like her junior year in high school, she came to me and said, sometimes it's hard because Annie's like, she just won that, or she's just got nominated for this big award in musical theater. And the twins, they could just, it's just their strength. She said, I'm not the best or really good at anything. And I said, babe, you know what? You're good at a lot of things, and that makes for a balanced life. And you're smart about people. And that's your street. And she graduates as a clinical counselor this Friday.
That's awesome.
From grad school. So, I mean, it's neat to see how, you know, that competitive piece can be balanced by even within the sibling life, you know, for sure.
She was the best about people.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
What
That's
about
so
you?
cool. Well, I love what both of you guys said. It is hard to balance the mama bear versus like the you know,
The learning process.
The learning you need to. One thing Jeff and I talk about a lot with our children is just an authority figure. And a coach is such an important part of authority figure from a young age up. And I know a lot of times it's either their own parent or it's a friend's parent. But we actually had an instance a few weeks ago. Something happened with one of our teams, and I just kind of said to the team, I said, as parents, we decide at this age, who our kids are coached by the majority of the time, or we decide what program we're going to sign them up for. So we have to then entrust that these people are, have the best interest of our child at heart. And sometimes, like you said, you're not going to love every coach, you're not going to love every teacher, but that's life. You're going to find some that change your life and that make a huge impact on you. But then you're going to find others that you learn things from the other way around, from a negative impact. And I think those experiences and teaching them, for us, we've just honed in on listen, they're your authority figure, you respect them, and you honor them. But on the other hand, though, I'm if you cross my baby,
no.
I will come at you. No, I'm just kidding. But I do think there also, all that to be said, there is a line where parents sometimes need to step in.
All right, so I like this question that I've been given. Does sports, and we'll start with Catie, does sports ever get out of balance in your house? And then what does that kind of look like in the Francoeur household? And we'll go around, but what does that look like, and how do you kind of and I'm going to assume it's from Jeff's probably, or all of the husbands are probably the ones most to blame for that, but how do you kind of communicate that when it does? What does it look like, and how do you communicate it when it does?
Well, it's funny, Jeff having the background he does, and us knowing each other for so long, and then me being married for how many years of your career, 15 years of your career. I actually feel sometimes it doesn't hold enough value in some ways, because for instance, when he is broadcasting, I don't make it a point to have the TV on unless he's on doing something really special. I don't make it a point to have the TV on and be we're going to watch your dad. We're going to watch the Braves tonight. We're going to do these things.
Which I tell her, turn the TV. I need the ratings. Turn the TV on for God's sakes at least. You know what I'm saying?
But I probably err too far on the other side of you see what your dad does on a daily basis. You see what, who quote unquote he is. So for me, I think I try to be this, it's not a big deal, sports, whatever. Now, if it comes to the kids, I think if we have so many activities in one day that or a week that we just miss one another, that's when I'll put my foot down and say we are eating together this night. So-and-so is going to be late to practice, or so-and-so is going to miss practice, but we haven't all sat down as a family in days, and I'm missing it. We're all missing it. So that's what I was.
Okay, you guys ever had that happen in your household?
Yes.
Once, right?
Yeah, once. Often, and I get it. I mean, I grew up in a sports family, but the dinner table conversation, I can take for about 5 minutes, conversation about tennis, and this is when they all four were at home and everything. And it was good to redirect the conversation. Hey, there's 3 other people over here that, have a lot to talk about too. And you're always great with that. And sometimes you're oh, sorry, and but just the redirection of that and refocusing that and celebrating what's going on in everybody's life, so.
You're good. I mean, you talked about the yin and the yang, and you kind of always took that approach too. Because I did, I'll confess, there's plenty of times as they got older, especially when it was really intense and the stakes felt like they were high, that sports dominated, the thoughts and the discussions. And she would say, time out, your boys, they've had enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes those were hard discussions, but they were super helpful.
Yeah.
I could tell you now, I wish I had done more of it, done some things differently even, and I don't know how this is for y'all, but in the intensity of an actual match or the event, that was hard for me, because it was really hard for me. He just knows tennis, and he had a strategy in mind, and you're so attuned to your partner's body language and all that, And I just sometimes just had to walk away, and you know, it wasn't worth the. Sometimes I wish I'd done some of that part differently as well. So
what would you have done different?
I don't know. It was convicting one time. I don't know why I did this, and you'll laugh, but my daughter at dress rehearsals, I just wanted to be a part of it. You know, I was always the set mom or whatever, and I'd come out front and I'd sit on the front row of dress rehearsal, like for her ending or whatever, and when she was singing, and I would follow along. And finally, she said, "Mom, I love you, but don't come to dress rehearsal. Just go paint the sets." And she said it in a loving way, and it hurt me. So I don't know why. And I would like sing with her, and I can't sing. I can't get the tune. I mean, but she. So I came home, and Annie just told me not to come to dress rehearsals or move to the back or stay backstage, which I get. And he was like, "Honey, I get it. Just enjoy watching your child do what they love." And I learned a lot from that, even, and leaning into it as a parent. And how can I parent you well in this? And this is like when they're, you know, late high school, in the heat of, you know, how can I love you well or parent you well through, you know, what you love, and, you know, not it be my everything. You know, I can't even believe I did that.
It's way easier to see that in somebody else and
so I wish I had said to him,
yourself,
"Man, your boys are having a blast out there, and just enjoy, just because we won't have this forever, you know."
Well, you guys,
that's over.
You guys had, I mean, none of us have had. That was pretty. I mean, when they were upper high school and they were fighting for, especially Jack was fighting for scholarships, and every match and every tournament, it hinged that possibility of him getting a scholarship hinged on. I mean, I can't imagine the stress.
You know, in sports, it's like every weekend, you're either performing or not performing.
Just riding.
In tennis, you're playing for that ranking too, right?
Yeah. So, every match matters.
How did that work with the boys? How did y'all parent them coming up together in the same sport?
He did that pretty well. It was.
That's tricky.
It was really hard. I mean, because every time you leave a game, we talk about the car ride home a lot. Almost every car ride home, there was one who was celebrating and one who was devastated. Mm-hmm. And so you could never really celebrate with this one. And, you know, and you couldn't, it's just hard.
So that's where you should have sent Kay with the one that lost.
Well, we did that a number of times.
Yeah.
Before I figured out the car ride home, you know, there were times when it was like, yeah, why don't you ride with your mom? And that gave me some time, and it gave them some time, because she was just going to talk about, you know, how great they played, and they were devastated. And so, yeah, I mean, we learned a lot of things the hard way. And it gets, I mean, it's hard when they're young, and it gets harder when the stakes get higher, and everybody's playing different things. And
how do you guys respond when your husband's get intense in the middle of a sport?
Brad's always pretty cool. I mean, there are definitely some parents that you know might even get kicked out of a game. You know, they're more vocal. So Brad's actually very, you know, I've never seen him act in a way that would, mainly because Brady would be absolutely mortified to hear his dad's voice out there. And there are plenty of other dads who are going to fuss at the ref for the wrong call.
Brady's let me know if I ever, and he laughs at me because at about age 11, he surpassed me in baseball knowledge. So when I say something, he said I just sound so geeky when I say something in baseball terminology, like let's turn two. He just makes him cringe. But I don't. Yeah, he told me not to say anything in the game.
Shut up.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I think Brad's involvement with our boys in particular is not rooted in his dream for them to play professionally, but to give them the best opportunity, and to not look back and be like, I didn't do enough for my kid, to the point where sort of a pivotal moment with Daniel and Brad's relationship. So he came home at 8 years old, and of course we put him in soccer because that's what he knew, and he was a good soccer player.
From Guatemala.
Yeah, he's
so
from Guatemala.
He was born to play soccer, yeah. I was thinking it was going to be a lot of potential professional money coming the Williams way, but so go ahead, yeah.
So
it was a truly altruistic adoption. No, we loved him anyway.
But he emerged in his stream.
Yeah, oh no.
Right. Well, and then he, in middle school, he was a fast short distance runner, and we would cheer him on, and it was just for him to have a win was just such a sweet moment. I mean, I think I cried during like one of those track meets, and they, a relay team with their boys.
Yeah.
It was such a sweet moment because he needed to have, his younger brother was, played every sport, and it was so nice for Daniel to have his own sport. Brady never played soccer, which was nice, and didn't run track. So Daniel had his own victories, which was great. But then, so when Brad was athletic director, and Daniel made it to high school, saw the soccer involvement, knew he did not want to pursue it after high school, but it was such a time commitment. And he tried track and realized that his height was not going to help him compete with the rest. He came to me and he said, "Mom, I think I'm done with sports." It was maybe 10th grade. And I said, "That's okay." And he said, I'm afraid to tell Dad." And I said, "Well, of course he'll support you." And he said, I know he won't be upset with me, but it's the one thing that we have, that connection. And he said, he's the athletic director, and if his own son is not even part of athletics, how will he feel? And Daniel approached Brad, and Brad took it very well, and maybe with some sadness of, not having.
Yeah, we're not a fast family. He was our only fast kid. I was like, You don't understand. It's like, you're fast.
So, and Brad has always said, I just want every child to have something that they feel good at. But what's been a blessing about Pure Athlete is it's given that opportunity for Brad and Daniel to connect.
That's cool.
In such a great and meaningful way, and in a time capacity. Because, he was always saying, okay, well, if you're not going to do sports, all right, let's go to the movies on a regular basis, just the two of us, And I've tried to connect in that same way, with our girls, just to, so that was, but as far as balance, we're not in the thick of it anymore, so it's easier for me to be like, oh, it wasn't that bad. But I remembered times, because of the age span of our kids, it was hard. I had two toddlers in a stroller, sitting in the rain, watching a soccer game. He was at baseball. We were texting, did your team win?
That's what they're in right now.
Never seeing each other. Our oldest two did competition cheer for a while. And of course, our holidays were spent watching, our girls in a 2-minute routine. And then we're all day there. Little brothers are restless, so looking back, I'm like, what were we thinking? But then at the same time, these were experiences that we grew from and learned from. And
we told our kids, being one of 6, we said, somebody's going to be at your game. It may be a grandparent, but one of us, but we had, like y'all probably about to hit, like we had those Saturdays where there's 4 events.
Oh yeah.
You're all over the place. You start at 6:30 in the morning.
Right,
and
you have to divide and conquer to get through it, especially with lots of kids.
You sit on the couch at 10:39 with a glass of wine going,
you fall asleep before
you fall asleep after you pour a glass of wine. You're like, wait a minute, what?
But you know what? Some days I wish for those days back a little bit.
Absolutely. And they're really sweet days.
I wanted Katie to answer about the intensity of sports too.
Hold on, can I reference though his past with this too, because it plays into. Jeff was always such a good sport when he played baseball until he wasn't. And he would always do, like, how many times did you get thrown out of games? Like, 9. Not a lot. He got 1 throw out a year I always gave him. And it would always be on, like, Easter Sunday.
I got tossed on Easter Sunday. My mom blew me.
His mama got stuff. But
I got caught saying something on TV
mama.
that you shouldn't
exactly,
say.
But like it was kind of one of those things where I was like, okay, not today. Like you didn't do this today. So then fast forward as a coach, he's so calm and cool and collected until he's not. Yeah. So now it's easy for me. He got so upset the other night, and for good reason. There was inappropriate coaching going on at a 5-year-old t-ball game, and he got really, really mad at the injustice of it. And I had to look across the field at him and didn't have to say,
yeah, no, I mean, she does a good job of.
You're at a 10. I'm gonna need you to bring it to a 5. Like because
that's cool.
He'll never get upset that like a kid does poorly and it affects his score. He'll get upset if a kid is wronged by another coach or a parent does something to wrong another kid, but still the same temper comes out.
I love that.
You know? So we have a little bit of like, okay, I'm not going to tell you to settle down much, but when I do, please listen.
Yeah, that's the partnership.
No, for sure. And she does a good job of balancing that. Like she'll give me a look sometimes. I'm like, I got it.
But you know what I've been surprised about is he coaches all the kids and all the things, and probably to a fault. We're learning the ebb and flow of coaching versus not.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple of times where things have happened or been said about him. And I'm surprised at my mama bear wife part because I'm like, wait a minute. Like I know my husband's heart. I hear how he talks about these kids and loves these kids. And, you know, so that's been a surprising thing to me that I've been like, oh, you ain't gonna talk about him like that. I'm gonna say something before. Because that's not me at all. I'm a very non-conflictive person, but until you mess with
my man.
You know? Yeah. So
that's good.
For sure.
That's good. See, I'm not that bad. I think what I wanted to ask Kay was, you talk about the boys, right? And when they were playing, for instance, in high stress tennis match, the pressure, how did you try to come beside them? And because, you know, you can say it all you want as a mom, like, guys, it's just another game, but you know your kid's feeling it, right? I mean, no matter what you say. I mean, I remember my mom before a state championship football game, just go have fun. Well, it's easy to say that, but the kids know what's at stake.
Right.
So how did you try to come beside your kids before a big event?
I don't know. It's tricky with identical twins. And I learned, still don't know a lot about it, but Jack was really strong at the back. Britton, he would have rather been playing football and lacrosse, to be honest. A lot of times he was really good at the net. He wasn't scared at the net, so I tried to build up their strength areas in that. And honestly, too, and the older they got, we kind of called it like it was. You know, bud, I know you're discouraged. You're learning from this. You know, it was really tough on Britton a couple times, so I kind of would be take him away and do the mama bear nurture and, you know.
She didn't get all that engaged in tennis talk. So she's a big encourager, and it was more about, you know, about deflection into other topics.
Yeah.
And just loving on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had some rough times with them in stages as dreams looked like they were going to be dashed.
I mean, it breaks your heart.
And,
I mean, I just, you know, and it really breaks your heart.
You just love them. You
Yep.
just love them. And they're better for it. We talk all the time on the show about leveraging those moments for life, and they, you know, we've seen it, and it, you know, those moments have made Britton very resilient. And I mean, there are many times where he, over 6 or 7 years, at the end of a tournament, I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm done. And at first, I'm like, well, you're not. We don't quit. The Leafs don't quit. You know. Well, after a few times of that, I realized 24 hours later, he was all in, working even harder.
And, you know, even studying for exams this week at Georgia, Britton's grinding. You know, just, you know, pushing through.
He did really well too.
Yeah,
So
they're a great doubles team, and that was fun.
Easier when they played together.
That was fun. Yeah, it was really fun. I love that part of high school sports. I mean, I was into it.
Yeah, she was really into high school sports. She wasn't that into going to
the
other tournaments and all that kind of stuff. She didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, I love the families. I love the community.
Yeah.
That piece of it, you know.
All right, Kathie, like Brady, for instance, right now playing in the state playoffs for baseball. You know, how do you try to come beside him? Because, again, you can just say it's another game, but to him it's not.
Oh, well, and I'm doing the whole weepy senior year thing. And it's like, is this the last time I'm ever going to see him play ever? You know, Brad the same way, you know, is this the last home run? Is this the last, you know, so that I think feeling it from an emotional perspective, you know, I want them to continue because I want him to always have that experience. And I've been so grateful for his coaches and his teammates that I think I'm going to mourn the passing of that community even more so than the season. But, you know, as long as, if he leaves the field feeling good about how he helped his team, then that's a win for him. It truly is. So, but it would be nice, you know, for the ending of the story to end with them going farther than they have gone before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he gets that. He gets that from his mom, though. We talked a little bit about, maybe off the podcast, that he talked about his goals this year as a senior was to be a great teammate, was to just love the experience of this last year. He's got such great friends. He's got great coaches. And that's after I was asking what his goals were, like, what do you want to hit, you know, like that. And I think he gets that. He goes to Kathie. They have kind of these road trips they'll take that have nothing to do with baseball, and he comes back just in a different place after spending that 3 hours up and back, you know, with mom in the car talking about life, and I think he gets that perspective away from baseball, but I think it helps his baseball a lot by having those conversations with her about, you know, it grounds him so much, and it really, it's a huge part of who he is, and so yeah. But she's pretty. It's funny, I didn't realize how big a fan she was until, like, if she's taping something and you hear her in the background, we don't always sit together. Yeah. And when she used to play basketball and stuff, I was like, who is that lady screaming into the phone?
Obnoxious mom.
It was her. I was like, I didn't know that, because if I was coaching or whatever, I wasn't sitting next to her. But no, it was funny.
Hey, I want to ask a couple just real specific questions, and you touched on this one earlier, but I'm going to ask you to elaborate a little bit. But how do y'all, things that are important as a family in this crazy world of sports, when kids are going everywhere and it's hard to have dinner together, and how did y'all do that? How are you doing that, and how did y'all do that?
We're not doing it well yet, so we got to figure that out. No, I feel like when we sit down at the beginning of every season, I feel like we look at the teams as a whole and say, okay, when does this team practice? When does that team practice? And because he does coach a couple of the teams, that is one thing about coaching. You can help make the schedules.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge blessing, because we'll say, well, so-and-so has practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so you got to do this Thursday too, so we can eat dinner all together Wednesday.
Yeah, she's done a good job. Like, we eat dinner every Thursday and Sunday as a family, and we usually get one more sometimes in there. But
see, we have one that's not playing anything right now, and one that's only playing
once
one.
he cranks up, it's going to be a whole different.
We're bracing for it. We're like, here it goes.
I confess, we ate out a lot.
We
How
eat
do you
Chick-fil-A
not, though?
4
I hate
times
to
a
say
week.
it.
we ate at Waffle House, and our favorite is this, mellow mushroom pizza.
Well, we know Brent's and mellow mushroom every day when I talk to
Why they
him.
don't sponsor this show, I don't know.
Come
on.
Sponsor this.
That we ate
least
there.
in
In fact,
trade,
my
maybe.
boys would sometimes eat there, and we'd join them. And it was just, we had that focus time, that talk time. We talked about the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
But see, I think that's so good too, though, because then that's one less thing on your plate. You're not stressed. Not that dinner is stressful every night, but that's one more thing to do at a time of the day when you're exhausted. So that leaves you to give them more of your energy.
Well, and he always said he liked to go out to eat sometimes because
she was engaged.
Constant. You know how it is with 4 kids. It's,
oh yeah.
Okay, we ate. Now we got to clean up. Now we got to get to your homework. And he said you would just relax and engage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually get frustrated if we went out to dinner and 30 minutes in, everybody's done, and okay, let's go. I'd be like, no, we came here. We're going to sit for a little bit. That's why we did it. And but those were good times.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
How about y'all?
The only time it was a struggle was on the Sunday morning element. When Brady was playing travel team, and I guess Daniel some too, but
we had soccer and baseball at one point going on.
On Sundays. And so, all right, sometimes I would take the kids who weren't in an activity, or, you know, that was hard, giving up. And the message that it was sending our kids of athletics comes before church. And we were very involved in that church. I mean, it was very visible when we were not there as well.
It was a small church, yeah.
So fortunately that season did not last long. But I think the times where we've had to sacrifice like a couple days of our vacation because Brad and Brady have to leave early and that type of thing.
We've talked about that.
Yes, we have.
And you know, me needing to honor the importance of certain things, but also trying to raise the whole family and the sacrifices that, you know, the younger siblings at the time would have to make. And like this past spring break, little sister came with me. You know, we watched some of Brady's baseball with his team, and she was able to bring a friend, which made it better. But then the other sister went elsewhere with a group of friends, and she was thrilled with that. But a lot of it is compromise. With 6 kids with such an age range, sometimes the dinner in shifts was kind of nice though. So if we couldn't eat around the table, but I could have some intentional time with individual kids. So that was not always a bad thing. And again, it's easier now because we're reflecting, we're not living it. So, but I really think it was the Sunday morning issue for that bit was the hardest part of it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we at least need Sunday to be together, to worship together, to rest.
If we're in the losers bracket, that was where the debate came. If we're in the winners bracket, you know, honey, we gotta go. No, but she was the voice of reason on those things. But yeah, that was hard. It was hard if you were in the losers bracket and you had at 8 a.m. on Sunday. Sometimes you get beat early enough to where you get back for church. You know, that was the good news about getting beat early, you know. But
one of our good friends showed up at church the other day in uniform. I was
Full
like,
uni.
that's awesome. But he lost, so they were like, we're going to church.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think we've done that.
I just think about that though too, because what's better, playing all day? Because we play softball starting at 7 a.m. and
But it's all day Saturday and you're done.
But we get home sometimes at like midnight, and then we all are like wet noodles on Sunday.
Yeah.
But you're done.
Yeah.
So I asked my dad that question. I played travel ball, you know, and I said, did we not, because we went to church almost every Sunday, and he said, well, 25 years ago, we didn't start till 1:30 on Sundays. No one thought about starting before 12 o'clock. And now
we need
that's
to swing
changed.
That pendulum back.
We do. And we talk about it all the time. What are you sending to your kids? What are you doing? But I understand there's also different circumstances, and sometimes it might be a bigger tournament or this or that. And those are decisions like anything you make as families.
It's hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how, you know, stepping back from all the details, sports has been a big part of all our families' lives. It's a big part of y'all's right now. From y'all's perspective, you know, is that a good thing? And why?
Yes. Just learning how to be a part of something, be a part of a team, be a part of a community, to fight hard, you know, to work hard. And again, I even had a conversation with 2 of our kids who are coming to your school recently about your student athletes. I mean, it goes together.
Yeah.
And learning to, with my son Jack, it's almost like if you can intertwine a physical activity with memorizing the states and capitals, he's got it, you know? So I think that piece of it is very important, you know? And I, as a parent, love the community myself. So, and it allows us to kind of, you know, have a way into community and maybe some avenues that we wouldn't go into as well. So it's been great for outreach.
Yeah.
I absolutely, I'm grateful for the athletic programs that our kids have been part of and the arts programs. And, you know, when like Daniel was like, I don't want to pursue this anymore. If a child is not wanting to do sports, my ask would be, well, what is going to replace that time? I would much rather have them on the ball field all day than gaming. So I think the discipline is there. It builds character. The winning, the losing, being part of a team, especially if you have good coaches feeding into those, your kids. So I absolutely, even if we had a child who didn't necessarily feel good at a particular sport, I think I'd still, let's try this or that, just so they could have that that purpose. I remember one time, I don't remember coaching maybe a basketball team, and there were a couple. I was like, "Are you cutting any?" He was like, "No, we're gonna." Even though, I'll call these parents, even though their kid's not going to get a lot of play time, the parents said it's worth it. My kid just wants to dress out and be with his friends, and that was enough for that kid. I have theater students the same way, that they'll even on their audition form, please just put me in the ensemble. I just want to be part of it. I can put them in a beautiful costume and teach them the songs, and they're part of that. And I think that's important. It's not all about the winning season or the winning show. It's about building that community and giving them something to look back on, oh yeah, I used to play baseball or basketball, or I was in that show. It gives kids a purpose that they would not otherwise have. So.
Yeah, I love what you both have said. I love to, we talk about this a lot as a couple, is just the life lessons, the character building, but also things, you're almost practicing how to manage your emotions a little bit. We always talk about work ethic and we talk about attitude, and it's been interesting and fun to watch my little pre-tween with the attitude that she sometimes has at home will come out a little bit on the field sometimes, or on a court sometimes. And, we have those conversations of like you're learning now, if you act like this in 15 years to a boss, like you're fired, you're learning good things now when it doesn't really, there's not a lot of consequence. So for that, I also love sports. And I love the community aspect of it. And I do feel like the more our culture becomes centered around things like from, likes on Instagram and Snapchat and these things. And even if you are playing a solo sport like tennis, or like sports does teach you, like it's not just about you, like you're looking at other people, you're looking at other, other things than just you. And sometimes that scares me where the culture is going, because I've listened to a lot of parents at, 10, 15 years ahead of us. And let's say they do have a child that wants to play a collegiate sport. I'm shocked at now the number of sports where you have to have your own profile in 9th grade or things. I'm like, what? That's a thing? Yeah. Like that's real life.
Yeah, they used to the scouts would just find you in any sport. Right?
Yeah, and now it's like, no, you got to market yourself. And so how do we raise children in that? I mean, let's say they're even, whether they're subpar athletes or great athletes, but where they're not always pointing inward, like where you're investing in other people too, and you're looking outward.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So can y'all answer that the next podcast? That'd be great. Just kidding.
It's funny. We actually got a call last week from a coach about Brady. Saw some videos of him and some film, and he said, does he have a Twitter account or an X account? I said, no. I said, he does social media, but he never posts anything. And I was like, this kid doesn't have a walk at music, so he's definitely not fit. So, I mean, I think that also that's something we can talk about in the future, because I don't know if how much you have to market yourself. If you're a Catie Francoeur, you don't have to market yourself, but there's other ways to get noticed. Your coaches are so vitally important to speak up for you and to promote you and things like that. But it was refreshing for him to say, no, my kid doesn't have account that's promoting. He hasn't gone out there and done that, you know, and so.
Jeff, your dad wouldn't have allowed that even now.
Oh,
you would have said absolutely.
If I posted anything of me doing something good, man, my dad would have wore me out.
Yeah, like we don't brag.
You know, and I love it too. And that's why, you know, when she talked about like the injustice and getting mad when I was coaching, like that's why, like I know I went through my struggles in high school with humility and cockiness and all that, but my dad was big on humility.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And, you know, so I think that's when I get mad, is when you see these other coaches like almost strutting around like, dude, you did nothing. Right. At the end of the day, like that's the thing when I coach, like I want the kids to realize it's you're the ones out there. Like when you make those great, it's you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like we come alongside you and help you and encourage, but that's what I think we all love about sports, is watching your kid work at something, and good or bad, if it's bad, overcoming that, or if it's good, just doing something well because they worked hard at it. And I think that's what we all want for our kids.
For sure.
Out of sport. So with that being said, finishing up, I'm going to give each of you a chance, and we'll start with you first.
I feel like I've been first a lot tonight. Y'all, somebody else go first.
But because then we are going out to eat after this. We're celebrating with a nice Italian dinner, so I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, me too.
So we'll start finishing up here. Just any advice or thoughts you'd like to share?
Advice?
Anything.
No, I'm probably the one that needs to receive the advice. But one thing I will say about, I'm very thankful for the experience I've had, like growing up with Jeff and his athletic ability, because we went to a high school, we were talking about this on the way here, we went to a high school that was good in all athletics. Like they were just good. Like so many of my friends were just amazing athletes. But it's been freeing to see, even just watching him, like he didn't have to try, you know, a lot. You didn't have to try it a lot. And so what I'm saying is, a lot of times I feel like parents feel this pressure of like, if my kid's not doing this by 5th grade and not doing these lessons and not doing these things, that they're not going to be where they need to be in 11th grade or 12th grade. And what I have felt freedom, because I feel like I would be sucked into that too, but I've loved that I've gotten a first seat look at him, because Jeff was the one like, I'm not going to work out today. And yet like God gave him a talent, you know? So that's what I'm saying is what you said earlier, Kay. I love, like, we are all called to something. And if it is a higher level of athletics, then guess what? It's going to happen. But also there's so many other avenues too. And I think that's what is important about sports, is you're learning these things that will help you in those avenues too. It may not be athletics, but it might be, you know, anything from school to, you know, whatever the Lord has called you to. Mm-hmm. And I love that. So
nice. Kay?
Advice, or maybe
whatever.
Anything. What are your thoughts?
What's on my heart is all those amazing, gets me, widowed and single moms doing it by themselves. And a family I adore, the father was killed in a skiing accident 2 spring breaks ago. They go to your church. And I just noticed that the daughter, who, she's one of those, I said, you're a student athlete, just won state in everything track. And the mom is doing it all on her own. The mom is, you know, a decorator, you know, very, I don't know that it would be her heart and her passion, but seeing her dig deep and love well. Her husband was a great athlete. And she even put in her post, you know, Dad would be so proud of you. And I just, and I have friends that, you know, have been through hard divorces, and they pick it up and they get, my friend Jenny, she gets her kids where they need to be. You know, if she didn't know about the sport, she'd study or pursue it, you know, to have, you know, the support that her kids needed. And I think, wow, I don't know if I had that in me, you know. I just, you know, it's just, we are who, you know, our kids need to be, leaning into what they need. And that's really my heart and my passion this year. And shout out to them. You're doing a great job. And I know even today, one of another student I had whose dad passed away with cancer, great athlete, and you took him with the mom.
On an official visit today.
An official visit for at a small college.
Yeah,
And
it went great. It was fun. It's my pleasure. And that's where the community comes in, is a joy to come in and serve, those families.
we're called to.
Yeah. Kathy?
Yeah, I mean,
finish
well,
this
the
up.
same. I mean, I'm going to get Terry. I have 6 theater students, 3 in my high school, 3 in my middle school, who have lost parents the past 2 years. And it's not, I'm grateful that I can be in their lives. But it's hard, all but one, their mothers died, only one dad. So for them not to have mom helping backstage or whatever, is hard to see. And I love that I can kind of be there for them. My advice, from a parent perspective, is to keep reevaluating why or how we're supporting them and why we are. Sometimes, we might fall into that living vicariously. Often disappointments, whether it's not making the team or not getting cast in the role they wanted, is made worse by the parent. And I hope, now that I'm on the teaching end, it's kind of convicted me of have I ever done this? That sometimes when we feel we're advocating for our kids, maybe it would have been better for them to have fought the battle on their own or to process it on their own. I have a tendency to try to want to fix things. And sometimes we need to let them have that struggle and disappointment and process it and just love them through it. So I guess my advice to parents is just before acting in any way, whether it's approaching a coach or a theater director or whatever, to first dig deep on, all right, what's my motivation? Is it to put, okay, my child's struggling or hurting, let me put it on your radar? Is it to try to fix it? Usually it is not the healthy, sometimes it's hard to see your kids struggle, but that's part of the growing up. So, so I think just to, allow them to have their own growth without trying to fix it. So
Awesome.
Great advice.
I think that's a good place to wrap. I just want to say, and I'm sure you guys want to say the same, thank you to all 3 of you for how much you support us and all that you do for the kids, which is way more than us taking them to the ball fields and all of that. And to all the moms that are out there listening,
Yep.
that are in the trenches doing all those things. And I love the thought of all the single moms that are out there doing it on their own. And single dads are out there doing it on their own as well. And it's just hard. So we as a community need to do what you did today and come around those folks and help them. And as coaches, you need to be understanding of that because it's just hard. So thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all. Proud of y'all.
Yeah,
I know, we're
thank
so
y'all.
proud of you.
And to all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
I hope
Happy
you all have a great
Mother's
one,
Day.
and happy Mother's Day to you 3.
Thank you.
Now let's go get some Italian.
Sounds good. Let's go.
Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.